So how do you get the most money back on your MacBook over here when you're ready to sell it? I'm going to show you some things you can do right when you buy it and all the way through the life to make sure you get as much as you can. All right, welcome back to my channel. We're going to kind of go through all these different ways you can get the most on your MacBook when you're ready to sell it. And let me just set up the video by saying, there's two types of users. One user is going to be someone maybe like me, because I do a lot of reviews. I'm going to buy a MacBook like this and I'm going to try to keep it in pristine condition, in that condition, so I can sell it maybe in a year or two and then get the next best thing, in the line of MacBooks that keep coming out. And that's what this video is for. People that want to kind of keep their MacBook in premium condition and make sure you can sell it for a premium price later on. I've showed you guys, articles, I'll put some stuff up here, but of the extreme MacBook prices that they're selling for. And if you look on like eBay and stuff, you can get like 70% of the cost of your MacBook back after 2 or 3 years, which is insane. So you're only spending like 30% of that money. But the key is keeping it in pristine condition. I'll show you, if you look at some of these older ones, I'll show you up here online, they don't sell for as much because aesthetically they don't look as good. So having that kind of diamond, it's a good, when you look at a diamond, it has to have all the characteristics of being high quality. And that's what people look for. I mean, a Mac is a lot about the use of it, but it's also about the look and feel. So people like to have that in check. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through a list of stuff you want to do if you're one of those people that like to buy something every couple of years and you want to keep it in very good shape so you can resell it for top dollar later. Now, if you're one of the people that keep it for 15 years, disregard this because you can destroy it any way you want. You're not going to really get much for it 15 years from now. That's fine. I wish I was in that boat because I do reviews, so I'm not. But I recommend that actually. But in any case, let's get into the video. We'll start one through whatever, and we'll finish it off. All right. Personality on your MacBook. I totally recommend don't do this unless you're going to keep it forever. If you are, definitely do it. But if you're going to be selling this or you think you're going to be selling it, don't put stickers all over the back of it. They're very hard to get off. They usually leave a mark or they discolor. Also, don't put key covers on or stickers on your keys, for instance. And, obviously, not only can that be hard to get off later and leave residue and stuff on the keys, but it can also damage the screen because it raises it up just a touch, especially in the newer M1 Macs. So what I recommend doing is keep it in a pristine condition again. Don't personalize it in any way if you can help it, because sometimes that's hard to get off. So you see people with tons of stickers on there and they sell them sometimes on eBay. I'll maybe try to show you some examples here. But they don't go for as much as you would if they're just pristine condition. So, obviously, if you're one of those people that want to keep it, that's fine. Go for it. If not, no stickers. All right, number 2 is where it's available, plug in your MacBook. So let me explain. A lot of people look at the cycle counts on their MacBook. They're going to go in there and take a look at how many cycle counts does the MacBook have when they're buying it, or they might ask that question. At least people that are knowledgeable might. So what I tend to say is in order to kind of maintain your battery as long as possible, if you're at a desk or something where you can be connected to power, and again, I'm not, I don't follow my own rules, but you basically should have it connected to power if you can. And then when you don't, obviously I'm not saying don't try to use your notebook like you should at the coffee shop and stuff. But if you're close to power, plug it in because it won't count then as cycles. I have a whole video on how cycles work. Check out my other video as far as your power cycles. Long story short though, you want to keep them as low as possible to sell them if you're going to sell this in a couple years. So plug it in when you can. If it's right there, plug it in. If not, then just use it you normally would. Don't go crazy over it, but just save some cycles where you can. All right, the power adapter. If your power adapter looks like, let me put up some pictures like this, you don't want to sell it like that. That just gives the person that's going to buy it, a negative, impression of how you took care of your MacBook. So when they see, even though maybe your MacBook's perfect, but when they see that charger and it looks like that, then you just do not want to actually sell. They don't want to buy your device because you're kind of a dirty person. Being a dirty person is not good when you're trying to sell something to somebody, especially when you're touching the keys and everything else. So I recommend if you have a really, really bad charger, just go online and buy one for like 30 bucks or something, even if it's used. Make sure it's clean as your MacBook, and then go ahead and sell your MacBook online. You're going to probably get, if you spend 30 bucks on that, you're probably going to get 60 to 100 bucks in value back. Trust me on that one. Again, if you think you're going to sell it in a couple years, don't go crazy with the speakers and don't have a rave party in your apartment only using this as this pure sound. I would, because what happens is over time you can, obviously affect the quality of the speakers, and it might start humming, or you might lose some bass, or it could sound kind of punchy. So if that happens, you have to pretty much put that in the listing, or it might be returned back to you. So what I always recommend doing is, if it's your long-term use, go for it. If you're going to have this for 5 or 10 years, but if you're going to think about selling it in a couple, use the headphones more than you use the normal speakers. If you're just going to be really loud, or you want it to be really loud, like for music and bass and stuff, I'm not saying don't use it. You can use it, but just don't go crazy where you're pushing it to the limit, because the blown speakers on these things are expensive to replace, and it's going to just drop you down a couple $100 in the listings over something else, because you're going to have to list that as damaged. All right, another one is the screen. So on a lot of MacBooks, and you can see if you put this in your bag a lot and stuff like that, if you close the case, you're going to get like little indentations on the screen. Sometimes it looks like the keys are kind of almost superimposed on the screen. Sometimes you can wash that off, sometimes you can't. Sometimes people sneeze on their screens and then they try to wash it off with something that kind of makes little marks on it. Obviously, keeping your screen very, very clear and perfect. So what I recommend doing is, if you do something where you get something on the screen, follow Apple's protocol. I mean, they'll have it up online, and then you just wash it every so often so that it doesn't get too bad. And also make sure that you don't have, scratches and things like that on the screen, if at all possible. Obviously, again, a scratch screen is going to probably drop it by like another 20% off of what you can sell it for used. So it's pretty important, if you're going to sell it soon, not to scratch that screen. So when you close it, sometimes you can have like a little piece of felt in here, but that's almost sometimes not recommended either, unless it's super thin, because you can damage the screen. So I would just say, don't toss it around in a bag and stuff if you can, and don't smash it too much, but the screen is pretty important to the resale. All right, and then right when you're ready to sell it, it doesn't matter what you're using currently, but just upgrade it to the newest and greatest OS that you can for your device. So obviously the new M1s can be upgraded up to the newest OS, but some of the older Macs, maybe the 2012s and stuff like that, can't be upgraded as much, but definitely upgrade them to the top line where you can, because when you're looking at listings on eBay and stuff, a lot of times people will look for like Mojave as a minimum. When they see things like Mavericks or something that's even older than that, they automatically just write it off as it being too old, even though it can be upgraded. So upgrade it to as high as you can get it, and list that in there if you can. If it's so old that you can't get that high, then maybe you don't want to list the OS, but you got to kind of use your just justify what you want to put in the listing. But I say always upgrade it to the newest and greatest, even if you aren't currently using it. Right before you sell it, do that. When you're listing the listing, also, you want to list all the different features it has, including the positive ones, like I said, the updated OS. But also, if you can, list one owner if you're the only one that bought it. Just like a car dealership usually does, it gives you the perception, hey, a lot of people didn't own this before. So list it as one owner if you can, if it's true, I guess. And it just lets people know that maybe they don't have to worry about multiple people abusing the system instead of just one person. I know it's more of a, one of those things that it's more of a mindset than anything else, because you can't really tell what happened. But trust me, it works. It's psychology. List it as one owner. That's one good thing you can do. Pictures. Make sure you take as many pictures of the device as you can. Take it of the front, of the side, of the back. Anything that's positive on the unit, take a picture of it. If it's negative, you can take a picture of it as well. You pretty much have to, otherwise it's going to be returned to you. But still, if you have a very clean MacBook, make sure you put a good light on it. Make sure you show that there's no scratches. Don't make people guess. Don't hold it too far away if you have nothing there. So anyways, show your MacBook in the best light when you're taking the pictures. That's the moral of the story, and you're going to get a lot more top dollar for it. Emphasize on the positives all the time. All right, one thing to consider, and this is kind of not like the rest of them, but just when you're buying a new MacBook, try to get as much RAM as you can and as much storage. Those things change, obviously, every year. And in 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to think, oh, I maybe don't need that much storage now, but in 2 or 3 years when you're trying to sell it, it's going to give you an advantage. So again, it comes down to cost and how much they're going to charge you for it. So it's one of those kind of, you have to justify it. Don't go crazy. But if you have 16 gigs of RAM versus 8 maybe, it's going to be a lot more attractive to sell for top dollar in a couple years. Just keep that in mind. So space and make sure you buy something that's going to be good in a couple years if you can. I recommend the base amount a lot of times because of the way I use them. But in this case, if you want to get the most out of resale, you want to have a little bit more than the next guy on space and RAM. All right, and if you're going to be using this again for just a couple years, let's say 2 years or less, I avoid taking mine out to places. And again, this is how you use it, but I avoid taking it to like a beach or somewhere where there can be sand or dirt that can get into the keyboard and then obviously cause problems later. Obviously, this is pretty obvious. You want to keep debris out of the keyboard and stuff. Like I don't eat over it and stuff where I normally would on my I have Windows laptops that I want to destroy. Not really, but basically I actually like Windows, but I put them on my lap, eat my food, I have crumbs constantly going in them. These systems like this, I mean, they're just too expensive. I would, avoid doing that if at all costs, if you're gonna sell it. If you're not, go for it. I mean, you can shake them out, it's fine. I've ruined my number of laptops in the days, so it's just that I'm just thinking if you wanna get that 70% back, so you can basically go ahead and, put all that down payment on a new one. Make sure you don't eat over it or go to a beach with it or something like that, like sit on the beach and just on a towel and use it, because you're gonna get sand in there, scratches on the screen, stuff like that. It's just a no-brainer. All right, now we said no stickers and stuff, but really the scratches is one of the biggest things with the MacBook. Again, I don't know why, but when people see a scratched up MacBook or dented edges and stuff, the price just drops on eBay. They want a pristine system when they're buying a MacBook, and if it doesn't matter how old it is. If it looks really good, you're gonna get top dollar for it. So while I don't follow this advice, you should probably have some kind of a case on it if you can. I'm kind of against it only because it's like, well, you buy a beautiful laptop and then you cover it up with an ugly case, right? But again, it comes down to if you're just thinking about selling it for top dollar, put some kind of a case on it. Make sure the case itself doesn't scratch it. You don't want to get scratches all over it or dents in the corners and stuff, because it just, every dent you get in the corner probably takes 50 to $100 off. You just have to make sure that you keep things as clean as possible. Don't drag it across some rock table or something where you can scratch up the bottom of it. People don't look at the bottom, but they look at it online. They want to see it. So my advice to you is treat it with white gloves if you can, but if you're going to keep it, don't worry about it. All right, if you're going to be selling it again, hinges and ports. Hinges had a problem quite a while ago on MacBooks. They're not so bad now, but they want to be tight. You want tight hinges on here, and also your ports to be tight. If you have broken ports, obviously it's going to lose the value. But even like loose ports, where if you put something in and it kind of moves back and forth, just protect your ports as best you can. Again, these are all obvious things I'm telling you, but just think about it when you're plugging stuff in and taking things out. If you're going to be shuffling this on to the next person and getting the next and greatest, they want something that doesn't feel loose in there, either on the hinge or on the ports. So just be careful. Obviously, don't yank things out when they shouldn't be, or don't put them into, don't have something plugged in when you put it in your bag or something. That's pretty simple to follow. Temperature. Just make sure, again, this is something that they may not find out about, but just make sure if you're going to be selling this, always make sure you don't keep it in a hot car or a cold car. Make sure the temperature is pretty regulated. Again, this may not be something that they find out about, but they might find out through the battery, and then it could come back and bite you later where they return it maybe a month later, and then you're in a fight on eBay. So just keep your battery, again, pristine by keeping it out of a 110-degree car or a negative, 10-degree Fahrenheit car, and just make sure that it's something that you protect just like you would anything else. Make sure, you take it into the office with you. Don't leave it in something where it's going to be super hot. Anyways, I hope you guys like this video. I make a ton of videos like this. Let me know what you guys think. Just a couple more ideas I'm thinking about. Post comments as far as what else you think is good when you're selling your MacBook. What obviously the price is going to be something you want to set right and stuff, but that's for a different story or different video. Let me know what you guys think. Post some comments on what you guys want to see as well. I do a bunch of videos per week, hopefully. I try to at least. Subscribe to my channel if you guys can, and I will talk to you maybe in 2 or 3 days. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.